I have spent 10,000 hours in HSR playing every single update, every single unit except for global passive because I have morals. If there's one guy to listen to, it is going to be me. Absolutely right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Last time we did this tier list, I believe it was roughly 2.5-ish months ago, where we discussed as the rank 1 HSR Aeon of 1% guy. There's the listen, guy. We did a little bit of a pool value tier list ranging for every single unit ever since version 1 all the way up until version 3.0. Now, a lot of different things has happened for the past, I would say, that 4 weeks, because 3.4 has been one of, if not the most meta-defining patches in the entirety of HSR, because not only do we get entrance for the brand new free unit Archer, Saber, Phainon of IDs, Elysia, Britain. On top of that, we also have access to 4 brand new rework units. So after everything that has been happened, I would say that the meta of this current landscape has shifted dramatically, right? So without further ado, you can just play this video by your bedside. Don't worry, I'm not gonna scream, I'm not gonna shout. It's a very chill little, almost like a educational, you know, pleasant little video you can just listen to your bedside, as I'm gonna be discussing the pool value for every single unit within Honkai Starbucks. And without further ado, let's just begin right now, starting off from the version 1 unit. So I'm gonna be so for real, by this category of criteria, all of them is gonna be pretty straightforward and self-explanatory, right? The lesser number of alphabets there are, the less importance they have when it comes to their pooling value. It's not to say don't pool, you should skip them, or if you pool, you break your account, but by order of priority and opportunity cost for the meta in Honkai style, it is gonna be a little bit less important, right? So yep, let's just jump straight into this over here. Okay, first big change, I'm just gonna, okay, if there's nothing I have to say for these 2 units, I'm just not gonna say anything. Silver Wolf. Very important thing to take note is that all of these units over here, we're gonna be taking a look at their E0 baseline, because we are gonna be seeing 2 other tier lists that I'm gonna be cooking out, which is gonna be the Light Cone pool value tier list as well as the Eidolon pool value tier list, coming to a cinema near you, wholly overworking apps. Right, so we are just gonna talk about their baseline at E0. Silver Wolf after the buff, because ain't no way anyone is gonna be using Silver Wolf before the buff. I would say Silver Wolf as a unit, most of the time you are going to be seeing a lot of potential, specifically if you unlock the E1. At E0 S0, I cannot justify putting her anywhere above in the middle category, right? Good thing about this E0 Silver is that because of this AoE defense break, and you can essentially use her with the tutorial Light Cone, very general debuffer, right? Very general debuffer that you can kind of just use with any of the DPS that wants to stack on defense reduction stacking. Yo, by the way, editor, play on some like hotel, jazz, chill, DMCA free with like lo-fi, you know, just very chill. Yeah, absolutely. So as I'm saying, Silver Wolf, I think at E0 S0, the main consensus I would say for her ranking in a pool value is that you're essentially trading her for another potential support, because that's what Silver Wolf essentially is, a support, right? So pooling for Silver Wolf, I can't really foresee players having her as a higher value compared to another support, most notably Sunday, Tribbie, as well as to a certain extent Bronya, right? And the future in 3.5, I have no idea what Ceredra is gonna be doing, but because of this like competition in the support slots, and MiHoYo refuses to release a 3-team content, she's sort of in the average ranking, unless specifically if you're thinking of vertical investments to E1 or even E2. But at that point of time, you want to say, why would you even want to pull Silver in the first place? Because I would say that the most impactful role as of right now is probably gonna be her involvement with an Acheron team comp. And for an Acheron team comp, I'm gonna be so for real, E0 to E0, Cipher is her. Alright, Cipher is absolutely her. Even though a lot of people most likely probably have skipped Cipher because of the curse of Boothill banner placing, I think it's gonna be completely fine, because eventually when a rerun comes around and you still want to play Acheron by then, I will always get an E0 Cipher over E0 Silver, right? So that is pretty much gonna be okay. In any case, let's move on to a little bit more. Okay, if I have nothing to say, I just have nothing to say, right? It is very self-explanatory. I think Lulcha is gonna be, you know, it is what it is. All right, Blade. I would say Blade's increment in terms of ranking definitely made him a lot more competitive with regards to what used to be his previous placement as a version 1 HP scaling DPS. But as of this current point of time, I still wouldn't really recommend pulling Blade exclusively for now if you want to play him right now. Better than any of the other couple of version DPSs, version 1 DPSs, but mainly it's just because if you wanted to pull Blade to make him perform optimally, right, you really wanted like his slots in version 3. That is essentially your Sundays, your Tribbies, and your Hyacinths. If you do not have that, and you are going to be building him from the ground up, I really don't think it's going to be that worth it, especially when there are a lot of lower investment units that doesn't really force you to pull all of the pieces to make bro work as a whole, right? But if you already have those pieces, so for example, if you're someone that already has Teep, you have that Sunday, you have that S1 Hyacinth Lycon, then you can consider getting a Blade as an alternative to the other version 3 HP scaling DPS. So for example, if you're someone that did not pull for Caceres, did not pull for Mydei, and you wanted to use your Teep with someone that's not Herta, you basically skip every single version 3 DPS and you have Blade from last time, maybe you could consider, but as a whole, I still don't really think he's gonna be that big of a pull value, but at least I would say a little bit higher than these two, unless they get a buff. Right? So that is pretty much gonna be alright, chat. I'm gonna be completely ignoring chat because what happens in the tier list is there's gonna be war. Everybody will have their own opinion. Obligatory, your opinions are your opinions, right? Feel free to share them. I don't really give a damn. These are my opinions. So while there are war in the comment section in the chat, I'm just gonna yap. I'm just gonna ramble. So yep, same thing. Just opinion, just facts. Not facts, just opinions. Just a little bit of a goofy, alright. No war whatsoever. Peace, love, happiness. Now going on to cover. Okay. This is going to be in a very interesting spot over here because it really depends if you want to play DOT, right? Do you want to play DOT? If yes, just pull her, right? If you really want to play DOT, I think she's pretty much almost mandatory, especially when Hyacinth is going to be coming out. Some might even put it all the way up here, but I kind of want to wait and see how Hyacinth is going to change the DOT meta first. So I'm going to be giving a little bit more conservative. If you do not want to play DOT, there's no reason to pull her whatsoever, right? Completely irrelevant. No DOT, no worries. Don't have to give a damn. And it really just depends on how strong Hyacinth is going to be. If she is going to change DOT forever, great. Because as of right now, DOT is not really like tier 0 category or potentially even tier 0.5. It's just that they got a lot. Like they used like tier 4, right? Like tier 4, like nobody even used. Now they're like more usable at around, I would say, tier 1. Maybe Hyacinth changes everything, maybe not. I would say most likely she would, and they're probably going to be cater all of the bosses for DOT, right? For example, Memory Zone meme. Exceptional voice for DOT. So by that time rolls around, then Kafka is going to see a lot of the play. So I feel like between these two, it really just depends, right? So if you want to play DOT, just pull. If you don't want to play DOT, then completely just skip her. All right. Yep. Hey, Xuan, because you can essentially get her as a free unit. Okay, not really free, but like if you lose your 50-50, you are essentially getting a Xuan. So me personally, I'm not putting on a Xuan banner ever, right? Especially since we do have a HweHwe, which is gonna be the version 3 support, or rather version 3 sustain. I want to see if we are gonna be able to get another version 3 sustain to see if they can basically make our team clear our endgame content a little bit more comfortably. So because of that, it's gonna. But if you do have a Xuan, right, this is a pull value. I would never pull Xuan, but if you do have a Xuan, I think our sustain capabilities are still really good. In fact, I would say more comfortable than for example like HweHwe or even Gallagher against things like choosing. So her value as a unit is fine, but for pools, I personally will not spend energy for like for example a Fusion banner, right? Like Jingliu is essentially somewhat like Blade. I would say she's a little bit lower than Blade just because of the fact that Blade can be used in all 3 endgame content for the most part, right? Pure Vision, MOC, as well as A-Portion. Jingliu, if you want to use her in Pure Vision, it's going to be a little bit scuffed, but I would say that goes very close in terms of their performance. And very close. If I have to choose one, me personally, I would choose Blade, not because I'm engaged, but I just really like the way that Blade plays. And you know, if you do have yourself the access to the Mydei Lycon, which you can also give to Jingliu, I just like it a little bit more, right? Jingliu, one of the flaws is basically her additional defense downstate. You can't really time it exactly, and if you lose out on the Hyacinth S1, it can be a little bit annoying. And if they were to upscale the damage required for the endgame content, Jingliu might suffer a little bit, right? For Blade, because of the way his kit works, you're going to be having access to a lot of these follow-up attacks as long as the enemy hits you, and he also has a built-in taunt value. But that being said, for Blade, the enhanced state, right? The enhanced state for his hellscape state, it will end at the end of Blade's turn, which means you will have that one turn where Blade will not have access to the hellscape state, which means he will not get additional 500 taunt value, which means that he'll lose a little bit of stacks, right? So both of them, I probably personally wouldn't pull, but if I choose one, it's gonna be Blade. I'm gonna be so for real. Topaz is kind of like who? Not really because she fell off, because I just don't even think Topaz was that strong to begin with. And as of this point, if you're talking about like a follow-up team comp with, like, for example, Phainon and all kind of stuff, right? Maybe you can see a little bit more of a resurgence when you can see enemies that are more receptive for all of the different buffs for single target DPS, because I do believe the endgame content is slowly starting to shift towards single target DPS. But on the flip side, at E0 S0 without the E1, without the signature light cone, my god, it feels a little bit rough, right? It feels a little bit rough. And because we do have alternatives, for example, if you want to use Mydei, 100 it can essentially fill that particular gap. I would not spend strategies on Topaz banner, right? So that's gonna. Alright, HweHwe. If you have been watching my streams, right, I bitch on HweHwe a lot. Because I feel like as a sustain, she's not doing her job. You guys can complain, you can say cope or whatever it's gonna be. Without the synergy icon, without the E1, her job as a sustainer is really just not that good enough. She's extremely skill point heavy, and the actual sustain convert when up against bosses that will potentially one-shot you from multiple hits, there's nothing you could have done with HweHwe and your team, right? That aside, her role as a support, I think it's very, very decent, right? Energy regeneration as well as a 40% energy buff, especially with a lot of the recent units that we have seen, for example, Phainon, Blade, Jingliu, Saber, Archer. To a certain extent, all these energy regeneration buffs from a sustain can make their damage feel a lot smoother because of the team-wide 20% energy regeneration, because your Sunday also cycles faster now, right? So, because of the upsurge of Sunday's usage, the pairing with HweHwe does make a team feel a lot more cohesive, since you're giving this team more energy regeneration for the entire team and not just your DPS, right? But as a sustain, is like, oh my lord, bro, why, man? Why are you doing this, right? So me personally, I feel like HweHwe's value, I'll personally put it over here. If I want to sustain, I'll get HweHwe. If I don't want to HweHwe, I'll just wait for the next version 3 sustain. But to be fair, we have done a couple of decent roles, decent runs with HweHwe, and for good time's sake, you know, all the good runs back, energy regeneration, DOT, right? Maybe DOT HweHwe is going to be really, really good. I'll just put it at the end of the pool category, right? So that's going to be that. I don't know who the fuck this guy is. Okay, Ruan Mei, you technically get her for free, right? Ruan Mei, you technically get her for free. It's a free unit. If you don't, I would still think there isn't a lot of value in pooling for a Ruan Mei anymore. Main reason is because her role, right? The niche role for Ruan Mei is Super Break. And Super Break as a whole, not Ruan Mei's fault, not Firefly's fault, not any break DPS fault. It's just that the end game content for Super Break as a whole, it has been on a downward trend for the past 6 months. So I cannot in the good conscience recommend anyone to pull for a Ruan Mei banner. If you really, really want to use Ruan Mei for like SU, additional buffs, blessings, all that kind of stuff, just use the free golden companion. But even that is a little bit skeptical, because they did mention that they are going to be adding brand new champions to, not champions, brand new units to the golden companion shop. So if they're going to be adding units like Babin, you know, Sundays, you know, even Sparkle has a little bit more thingy. Tribbie, right? I will hold on to that a little bit. So yeah, I just wouldn't recommend. If you really want to play Super Break, you kind of just have to get her, right? Perhaps even here, if you really, really want to play Super Break and you refuse to gear on Super Break and you have not gotten Ruan Mei, then just get yourself a Ruan Mei, right? Other than that, I will not get it, right? Who the hell is this guy? Black Swan. Okay, this one is actually a little bit interesting, because we are gonna be getting high ceilings really, really soon. Okay, let me just put it here. We are gonna be getting high ceilings in version 3.5, which means there's a very good chance, as per the standard HSR meta shielding practice, they are gonna be shielding for the archetype for the specific endgame content. And high ceilings being a DOT means that DOT as a whole is gonna rise up. Just like how when Phainon gets released as a hyper carry DPS, you can see a lot of hyper carry DPS has risen up a rise for the past couple of months in this endgame content, right? So your old units that are hyper carry, they also gain similar buffs. Black Swan is not going to be an exception, because if they are going to be buffing the overall DOT performance, she will most likely be there as well. So even if you're a player that do not pull for high stalents, DOT as a whole most likely would be getting a general buff up, especially if you're someone that wants to play DOT and you have Kafka. Now, because this is a pool value tier list, right? Pool value. It is not about their performance. From a pool value perspective, if you would ask me, I will always pull for a brand new unit than an old unit if both of them are going to be performing a very similar role. So high stalents is going to be a DOT, right? She's going to be DOT. And if you can only pull Black Swan or high stalents, then the answer, in my opinion, is going to be very straightforward, right? And because of that, and we're not considering E1 Black Swan and everything, I personally would rank her below Kafka. Because I think you can run high stalents with Kafka, but I don't think you'll want to run high stalents with a Black Swan, right? So I'll put at the tip top of pool if you are going to be playing DOT. Maybe if you have the additional resources to pull, like for example, a triple DOT with Kafka, high stalents, Black Swan, I think that's fair. But high stalents, in my opinion, if you are a DOT main, you should place the highest priority for her after you at least secure yourself the Kafka, right? So that's going to be... Okay, this unit, Miss Sparkle. I like how both Black Swan and Sparkle, they got a pretty substantial shift in the overall meta in the past couple of months. Sparkle is no exception, right? You guys have probably seen the numerous videos that we have made on our channel as a streams for the past couple of days, and by the time this video goes out, I don't know what time this is gonna be. Sparkle has seen a really good increase in overall usage with not just Archer, right? But even if you want to consider Archer alone, her placement in meta has went up considerably. Why? Because Archer is a goddamn free unit. And because Archer is a free unit, even if Sparkle could only be best in slot with Archer, but because of the fact that he's a free unit, everyone has access to Archer. It just depends whether or not you want to use him, right? So if you're somebody that has Sparkle, you can utilize this free unit to a much higher caliber compared with someone who does not. Outside of Archer, you could still run Sparkle with a couple of DPS, for example. Phainon still works with Sparkle as well. Blade still works with Sparkle. Jingliu still works with Sparkle. To a certain extent, as long as that teammate, that DPS can run Sunday, you more or less can run Sparkle. And the good thing about Sparkle is you don't need a signature icon because you already have a signature icon. DDD. Unless you have no DDD account, then that's just like everybody has DD, right? So E0 S0 Sparkle, very low investment unit, and you more or less can get her up and running. If you want to go for even higher vertical investment, you could consider the E2, but E2 is very expensive for a unit that's been like since 2.0, so it is what it is. But as mentioned, pool value tier list, not a unit's performance tier list, because you're going to be spending stellar Jades, right? I would say as a whole, even if you account for her performance, her role is somewhere similar to something like this, right? I don't really recommend anyone to pull for Sparkle specifically because of a very similar situation with Silver Wolf, right? You have your opportunity cost when it comes to the support slot, and we do not have 3-team content, which means that you have limited a number of people, number of supports that are going to be running a single team, unless you are going to be doing something that's sustainless, in which that's the case, a lot more supports can be utilized together. But for the general population, for the amount of pools they are investing in a Sparkle, you could be using that, for example, in like a Sunday or a Tribbie, a Cipher, or even a Bubbin, right? And at the end of the day, a Archer without a Sparkle can still function. You guys have probably seen from our E0 S1 free Archer running a full 4-star team. RMC, Gallagher, and Hanya, and it's still cleared with a pretty decent 3 cycle. Whether or not she's spending upwards of 70, 80, 90, 100 pools for Sparkle, that's up to you to decide. Me personally, I don't think her value is going to be that high, that justified to pull her all the way up, even if Archer technically increased her meta viability by a lot, because Archer as a free unit has a very strong performance in the overall meta, right? Unless we get ourselves a little bit of a Sparkle buff in the future, then that is going to be that. But as of where it stands, I'll rank her around the same caliber. Okay, maybe a little bit more than Kafka. Unless that person wants to play DOT, then the Kafka is going to go up, right? Acheron. Ooh, this is gonna be a good one, guys. This is gonna be a good one. Okay. At E0 S0 Acheron, you can just chug it to a rubbish bin, right? At E0 S0, it is what it is. Because I feel like all these like older DPS, not just Acheron, all of these older DPSs from version 2, if you still want to make them competitive in version 3, you will need vertical investments. Like, it is what it is. Because if an old unit without vertical investment can perform the same or better than a version 3 without vertical investment, then something's wrong with the game, right? So it is just a matter of fact that for older DPSs, lacking the vertical investments, like your S1 Acheron, like your DHIL, and even to this point, Cipher, all that kind of stuff, their performance are gonna fall by a lot. Like, if you want to try using E0 S0 Acheron with, like, I don't know, Pella and even Pella plus E0 S0 Silver Wolf, I think you're gonna be finding quite a bit of difficulty, right? So now you have like your Hyacinth with your S1s, you have your Ciphers with the S1s, you have your Silver Wolf with the E1, E2s, right? If you want to get on the Sparkle, the Sunday with Acheron. As a whole, if you want to use Acheron, she's still viable, right? Because like I mentioned, this is a pool value tier list, not a performance tier list. If you want to make Acheron perform, 100% doable. There has been, you guys have seen of our previous Poke Brawl, we have seen the E0 S1 Acherons, E2 S0 Acherons clearing one cycle of element in True Storm. So her performance is not really that big of a question. It's just that how much are you willing to go in to get Acheron. And for players that want to build her up from scratch right now, the opportunity cost that you have to spend in terms of strategies is just simply way too high. And I don't think it's going to be worth it unless you're someone that has been playing for a while. And for example, you have Acheron in your account, and then you want to make these kind of vertical investments to make her match up with version 3, then I think it's completely fine, right? It is still valid to invest in Acheron if you already have, but to start from scratch right now, I personally would not. All in all, I think with all those things being considered, I would put her somewhere around this category, right? Somewhere around this category. Actually, you know what? Maybe over here, right? Maybe over here, because what I would like to see is essentially, because she is like a nihility unit, right? She is the Emanator, self-annihilation, all that kind of stuff. I can see more growth prospects for Acheron going forward in the future, because as long as you get a nihility debuffer, which I've seen from Cipher, and then they buff Silver Wolf. In the future, if they give us another debuffer, I can see Acheron's placement being going up again, right? Like, as a whole for her performance as a DPS. So probably somewhere around here. And for a DPS, I think that for version 2 DPS no less, I think that is pretty commendable. So I'm just gonna be leaving over here. Aventurine. Honestly, I think this guy, there's nothing inherently wrong with Aventurine's kit. It's just that for the past couple of endgame content, they have been shilling for abundance units more than preservation units. It is what it is, right? Especially with Pollux, it's really, really rough. But I feel like as a sustain, he doesn't really have that big of an issue. In fact, he sustains way more comfortably than HweHwe, right? Way more comfortably than HweHwe. I'm not sure whether or not we're gonna be getting an Aventurine banner anytime soon, but for sustains, in my opinion, going for the latest version of sustains generally will fit your account to the highest degree possible, because if their job is to keep your team alive, then that is gonna be that. There's nothing too much to think about for a sustain, because if you're thinking about like damage amplification, I will always look into the synergies of a support and a DPS themselves. So looking to keep your team alive, right? If a version 3 sustain were to release within this patch, because I don't think there's going to only be one version 3 sustain, right? There can't just be like one here. There's probably going to be a second version 3 sustain, and by that time Guru rolls around, I think he would have a drastically higher value compared to Aventurine. So all things considered, I'll put him somewhere around here. Value as a whole, if you already own him, no issues, but whether or not you should pull him as of this day and age, I personally would not. Alright, Bobbin. Now, Bobbin has been she has made a significant wave in the meta, guys. She has released for, I think at this point, Bobbin has been out for like 1 year, right? Very, very she might as well be called Baba right now, because she has been a old ass unit, and we have seen her in like so many different teams I can't even count anymore. Follow up, DOT, Hyper, Carifa. I've seen people running super break with Bobbin as well, just for the edge of it. Crazy shit. So many different teams have run with Bobbin, and even in version 3 as of this time of recording, she can still be used with some of them. because they are starting to pivot away from the reliance on Tribbie. So you can see like main DPS Anexa, if you want to slap on a Saber, if you want to slap on Aglaea, Herta, a lot of these DPS, they can also make use of Babin. I would say as of right now, she is gonna be at the first unit. I would say it's like a pretty decent poo-poo. Pretty decent poo-poo. It's just that compared to some other units I'm going to mention a little bit later on, probably less. But out of all these units in the same caliber, she is gonna be a head above shoulders for this specific category. Now, I would say this does come with a caveat where if you don't use the teams that Babin is used with, which honestly there is a lot, then you also don't really need to consider it that much. For example, if you still want to play Super Break, just swap these two around, right? If you want to play Super Break, swap these two around, get yourself a Ruan Mei, then run a version 3 team with like a tip, you're done. If you don't want to play Super Break, then it is what it is. Or if you're playing like HP scaling DPS, for example, you're playing Castries, you're playing Mydei, right? All these times HP scaling DPS, you're also not really going to require Babin. But outside of the teams that just straight up do not really synergize that well with her, I think she's going to be having a really good value as of this current time running. And another good aspect is that when you do pull, like, let's just say one copy, in the future, if you want to conduct any sort of vertical investments, E1 Babin is a very quick and simple way to just instantly upgrade her for the 24% rare spend. Similar to how E0 Tribbie to E1 Tribbie, two costs, and you get a very substantial upgrade. I'm not going to talk about islands, but generally I would say Babin is still going to be in a very nice position for all of the different teams that we've been seeing so far. So that is going to be in the poo-poo category. Break teams. Okay, you know what? I'll rank all the break teams around the same caliber, right? If break team were to come back in the future, fantastic. As of right now, I just wouldn't really recommend anyone pulling a break team. Unless you sort of like for WHweHwe purposes, sure, go for it. As of right now, I just think that there's just way better things to invest in, especially if you need to build it from scratch. So for now, break team, a little bit rough, right? Oh, E2 Firefly, yeah, really good, right? Anyways, we'll move. Okay, Jade. Jade technically shined a little bit at the start of version 3 all the way up until I think version 3.3. She had a very good amount of usage, especially with Herta, because they were shitting the ever-living fuck out of AoE environment. So even in MOC, Jade's performance was like really good. Unfortunately, because of that, we are shifting away from AoE, so her usage in MOC is definitely going to be dropping off. But a good thing for Jade is that no matter how much she drops off in MOC or whatever, she will more or less still have a home in Pure Fiction. And this is somewhat like a good thing of being like so specialized to this dedicated niche, and that is going to be AoE. You are more or less always going to be having low-key a placement for her, regardless of the different elements and the changes to the endgame content, because Pure Vision, unless they change Pure Vision, right? If Pure Vision is going to keep like 5 targets, or maybe even more than 5 targets, Jade's entire kit just synergizes so well with PF. I think it's going to be not too shabby. If you do not have any issues with Pure Vision, because I would say Pure Vision, with the different buffs, a lot of different units can be viable in Pure Vision, unlike Memory of Chaos. I would say she's probably somewhere around this caliber, right? This caliber for Pure Vision. MOC, a little bit skeptical, right? Because she's sort of like a seasonal unit. If MOC starts shading for AoE, Jade can go up. If they don't shade for AoE, then you don't really use Jade anymore. So that's going to be... Okay, Yunli, Yunli is somewhat also like a seasonal character. I feel like she's a little bit similar to Jade, because if you go up against bosses that have a lot of hits, for example HweHwe, you can see a shit ton of damage from Yunli. So in the next patch, we're going to be getting Aventurine. She's also going to be getting quite a decent chunk of big counters. And the good thing about Yunli is that she, just similar to Acheron, she can make use of teams that your other DPS team would not really use, mainly your version 1 and version 2s, right? Aside from RMC, you can run your Babin, you can run your Sunday, you can run your Sparkle. All this kind of team can still use Yunli, so she's not really competing with your overall performances for all the teams that are going to be running in the endgame content. That being said, I think that her kit is just very interesting, right? Very unique, right? This whole counter mechanic, she's kind of unique, and I do have quite a lot of fun when I actually use the mechanic. But overall, as a meta, I would say your account is still fine if you don't have Yunli. Like, not every single account really wants or needs a Yunli. So because of that, I'm going to jump it down a little bit, right? Just a little bit, a smidge bit. But overall, if you really have a Yunli and you can actually run a couple of the endgame content, she's going to be completely fine. Gulp. Jiaoqiu is still... Okay, first things first, the only people considering on pulling Jiaoqiu should be Acheron mains. No one else should be thinking about putting DHIL because his synergy is always going to be replaced by someone else. He is not best in slot in any other team except for Acheron. But with that being established, if you still do not have DHIL, right? If you still do not have DHIL, you can essentially pull the other DHIL, the version 3 DHIL, which is Cipher. And I would say that me personally, from the testings I've done in early access, from the testing I've done in the live zone and everything, if my account did not have a DHIL, and my account did not have a Cipher, and I'm like an Acheron user, I might as well just get myself the Cipher. That is pretty much it. You can use DHIL with Cipher, right? You can also use DHIL with, I guess so. You can still do that. But the thing is, cost to cost wise, right? Like you are gonna be spending the same amount of stellar jades anyway. It's not like DHIL is like 50% off of stellar jades compared to Cipher. And because they are the same cost, a moment that I want to pull DHIL, I will just go ahead and pull for Cipher. Me personally, higher damage amplification, less reliance on the external elements factor, the true damage is absolutely fucking diabolical. So, all things considered, if you were an Acheron main, I will put this somewhere around here, right? I'll put it somewhere around here. Not that bad, right? You are still fine. If you want to use DHIL, you're still fine. You can still use it with Acheron, but 1-to-1 cost, me personally, because of the existence of Cipher, it is what it is, right? If you already have DHIL, that's also fine, right? You can still use, like I mentioned, this is not a performance. It's do you even pull for these units, right? If you don't have them, right? Because of that, it is what it is. All right. I don't give a fuck. Lingsha. Okay, Lingsha. Okay, I feel like Lingsha as a whole, right? Lingsha as a sustain, because of the fact she's so, skill point negative, right? She is very, very skill point negative, and the only real use you will see Lingsha outside of a break team is maybe Herta, right? But for Herta, you can also essentially just use, for example, like a Hyacinth, because Hyacinth Toot also is gonna be an AoE damage, right? Granted, is not multiple hits plus multiple hits, because Lingsha's skill into a bunny is double multiple hits, whereas for Toot is gonna be one single basic into a Toot hit, right? But because Toot can be so much more like skill point positive, and Lingsha's kit really does not function that well outside of break team, I can't even believe I'm saying this. Yeah, it is what it is, right? Because even if you want to use Lingsha with a break team, right, there's this other guy. Technically, you can basically just use him. Yep. Not to say that Gallagher is a Lingsha upgrade, side grade, downgrade, whatever it's gonna be, but the realistic situation is, for a scenario that you can use Lingsha in, you can use Gallagher. And for a scenario that you want to run a sustainers break team in, then you don't even need Lingsha in the first place, right? And most of the break teams, I'm not sure you can see in the past couple of cycles, a lot of break teams, to get their optimal performances, they just go ahead and run sustainers anyways, right? Fuck the sustain, fuck Gallagher, fuck Lingsha, slap on HMC, slam DDD, bada boom, bada bing, bada bang. So, because of all these three feathers combined, Lingsha not being used outside of break team that much anymore, skill point negative, she has a Gallagher side grade, and then you want to run a sustainless break team, it is what. I'm sorry, but me personally, I have an E1 S1 Lingsha. And I just run Lingsha main DPS, completely fine, right? I still run my E1 S1 Lingsha as my support to my E2 S1 Firefly, still get a pretty decent consideration, but the thing is, you're spending stellar jades, guys. So for a cost invested in a Lingsha, you could have invested in, for example, a E2 Firefly, like straight up, right? I would rather get a E2 Firefly with a sustainers HMC than an E0 Firefly plus a E1 Lingsha. So it really just is that simple, right? Opportunity cost, not performance, simply opportunity cost. Okay, you know what? Wait, before I rank this guy, I just realized, how the hell did I put Lulcha here? Okay, anyways. Oh, I want to do it, guys. Oh, I want to do it, but people are going crazy, bro. Oh my god, guys. Oh my god, it's coming, guys. Okay, you know what? To prevent World War III, I'm gonna put him in the same tier as Bubbin, right? To prevent World War III. Honestly, it's fine. You know what? Maybe Phasia will be the only unit that's a poo, right? To prevent World War III. A neutral, peace, love, happiness stream. But that being said, I just do believe between Sunday and Bubbin, right? Between Sunday and Bubbin, right now, Sunday does have a little bit more coverage In fact, he has always been having a lot of coverage because he is probably the only support right now that covers version 3, version 2, version 1, all in one. As long as you are a crit hyper carry, you can run Sunday. It is legitimately just that straightforward. This guy is the sole reason why Sparkle is over here as well, right? Bro literally invaded their opinion. And then with the introduction of Phainon, with the introduction of Saber, to a certain extent, even Archer, I don't know what Sarija is gonna do, but as of this point in time, Sunday's usage in a lot of these different teams, I would say it is really good. And aside from having this flexibility with this multitude of team comps, his performance in each and every single one of them is also really good, right? Also really good, right? The difference between lacking the Sunday, you can feel it more than the difference of lacking a Robin. Yep, you know MrPokke is serious because I don't even call it Robin, I'm talking about Robin, right? Okay, the thing with Robin, right, is that if you don't use Robin, Tribbie is a excellent alternative. Really good alternative, right? Whereas if you don't use Sunday, your alternatives are essentially Bronya, Sparkle, or RMC. And all three of them as an alternative, they do give you a higher degree of difficulties, right? You need to manage your speed a little bit more, manage your skill points a lot more, and less energy regeneration, whereas the impact of not having Barbin to just slap on Teep is lesser. And since this is a pool value tier list, to save war is gonna be something like this, alright? Sorry. This is my personal opinion. As of this point, I'll rank Sunday here. Face out is always, I don't give a fuck, right? Sunday is gonna be here. But you know what? I'm just gonna be a little bit more neutral, or a little bit more peace, love, happiness, right? I would put him here. Just know that by the time this video goes out, and if you watch to the end of this alright, if you are those people that skip through the whole video, right? You skip through every single video, you jump to the last 30 seconds, this will be the thing that you will see, right? Only real ones will know this is MrPokke's real opinion, right? This is MrPokke's real opinion. I'm just gonna jump it over here. It's completely fine. W, unless we get 50 subs from YesBeth. Because YesBeth is the rank 1 Sunday. If YesBeth gives us 50 subs, I'll bump up over here. Okay, anyways. Okay, I feel like... Okay, wait. Actually, let me adjust this a little bit more. Because I just realized this is... Okay, I feel like for the P list, right? For this P list, no particular order, right? So I'm just going to be charging it based on like chronology, right? No particular order whatsoever, but I'll just jump it over here. When Super Break comes back again, you pull Fugue. If Super Break does not come back, don't pull Fugue. Super simple. Done. Okay, I just did the Herta. I literally just did her, right? Did her real good. I would say she's honestly still fine, guys. Like I don't think she's that like garbage of a DPS, because like the fact that this thing got a million views, right? It means that a lot of people are interested in the performances of Herta and whether or not she's still tier 0 or tier 0, and all that kind of stuff. Blah, blah, blah. I would say she honestly is still really not that bad. The thing is though, the S1 changes a lot of things. And Herta's unit as a whole, she is quite dependent on the environment. So if we were to shift back into an AoE environment, I can see her instantly shooting back up to tier 0 immediately, right? Just like that, she'll instantly shoot back up again, and she don't need nobody, right? It is just a little bit unfortunate as of this point of time, they are shifting away from AoE and starting to move towards the single target archetype. So I would say Herta right now, I'll probably put her somewhere around here, right? She's still a really good DPS, and just like Acheron, she scales with like the erudition units. So right now, for example, you have a erudition dedicated single target DPS Anexa. In the future, imagine if they release like a erudition DPS sub DPS. Okay, like a Teep, but erudition. An erudition Teep. And then for that particular moment, you can instantly scale back up with Herta again once they change out the endgame content and they rotate away from single target. So I would say she's still really decent. Definitely a lot more considerable than if, for example, if you had to pull either Acheron or Herta as like the emanator unit, I'll go for Herta, right? That being said, vertical investments, highly recommended. But to be fair, every single DPS nowadays, vertical divestments are really, really highly recommended, right? So that, okay, Aglaea, performance-wise, absolutely astounding, right? Absolutely astounding performance-wise. I think Aglaea is an absolutely diabolical unit. And the best part of Aglaea is you don't need no tip. You don't need no HweHwe, you don't need no version 3. Like, her performance as a DPS is absolutely solid. I would say if you want to judge performance to performance, bank to bank, bar for bar, I would damn well say that she's gonna outskill Herta, right? Because she's not as reliant on the environment corner Herta. Join target attacking as long as she gets a team of Babin, Sunday, HweHwe. Team building wise, definitely a lot more restrictive, but you can make that team work. You are gonna be able to run her in a lot of different places. That being said, as a pool value, I'm gonna drop her down below Herta. And the only reason why this is because Herta can have room to grow because of the evolution thingy. But I find it very difficult to see how can Aglaea grow, right? It's like she is peaking with the Sunday, Babin, and HweHwe as of now. So unless they come up with like a better Babin, I mean technically wheelchair is a better Babin, but like a specific slot dedicated for Aglaea, I don't really see a potential prospect for. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna swap this below to Acheron. In terms of like room to grow, I just find it very hard to see like future wise how can a Nexus archetype as a whole become better as we go into version 4. Because a Nexus introduction to Honkai Starbucks, she's not there to be, I wouldn't say she was there to be like the DPS that will last for like the next 10 years, right? She was more or less there as the glue between the end of version 2 towards the start of version 3. Because she is the glue that combines your version 2 supports into this version 3 DPS. So she scales the most with this version 2 supports. But nowadays, you have your other version 3 DPS that can also scale with version 2 supports. For example, Phainon, Archer, Saber, etc, etc, right? So because of that, and I don't really know how Aglaea can grow, but if Aglaea can grow again next time, then you can just pull her by then, right? No rush, no issues whatsoever. If you really like Aglaea and she can somehow grow up again, that's gonna be good to go, right? Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put this above HweHwe. Okay. I don't know, guys. I think this unit is just way too good of a unit to pass out on, right? It's just way too good of a unit. Because one thing that people might consider is that Tip's value might start to drop off if we see more DPS that don't rely on her kit. For example, single target DPS that don't really rely on the multi-hits, right? Or if you are going to be talking about a alternative where you can run Tip with, like, if you don't have Tip, you have like Babin, those are attack scaling DPS, you can just go for Babin instead. But the thing that makes her, in my opinion, a really, really good pool, there are like 3 reasons why. Number 1, even though it's not an island tier list, but holy shit, the E1 is absolutely fucking insane. And then combining this with the fact that you don't really want that signature Lycone, and Babin's S1 really helps out a lot of the energy generation. Tip on DDD is like pure fiction, Apoc Shadows, MOC. As long as you have that Tip with DDD, you are gonna have to find a place with her somewhere, right? Even if MOC and Apoc phases away, Tip plus DDD is gonna be, I feel like she's just gonna be tier 0 with pure fiction for the rest of her life. It's just so much value from synergizing with every single AoE hits and giving you this 24% action value advance every single time she casts a very relatively low energy ultimate cost, right? And then last reason is her damage is just kind of crazy, especially with the current archetype of this thing people call the tricycle or the wheelchair comp, right? This archetype itself, you basically throw team building out the window. You don't have to care about best slots. You don't have to care about optimization, synergy. You literally run this tricycle team and they clear every single endgame content. Everywhere, right? I've done it with a level 70 R that I've never geared my entire life. That shit is 1 cycle or like 2 cycles too late. So because of like how well Tip synergizes with these two, as a whole, I can foresee this lifespan potentially even rivaling Babin, because Babin has an issue where if you run out of the additional energy generation, it's gonna be quite uncomfortable, right? Unless you have additional sources you can generate Babin energy, for example, your HweHwe, your Yuan, or fucking maybe even Sunday, not having that Babin ultimate is gonna be quite rough. Whereas for Tip, if you want to at least guarantee that her usage is gonna be maximized, Pure Vision is 100% without shadow of doubt. It's gonna be there forever. And then even outside of Pure Vision, every other team in the entire world right now, MOC and Apoc, she is her, right? So as of this point, I do want to say, Since like the real ones will know, right? The real ones will know. This used to be this is my real rating, right? I think Teep and Sunday, they're both really, really fucking diabolical. Like super, super good. And right now, it just so happens that we have the Teep and Sunday rerun. Between both units, I'm gonna be so for real. I feel like they're identical. That is how much value I think Sunday is. Because for teams that can use Teep, you don't necessarily need Sunday. And for teams that can use Sunday, you don't necessarily need Teep. Do you see where I'm going? So if you are somebody that will trying to build a team, for example, if you're trying to build a Phainon team, Sunday's inclusion to a Phainon upgrade is going to be astronomical. And then if the other side that you're kind of trying to build a Casuist team, then Teep's inclusion to Casuist is also going to be astronomical. And for every single meta-defining team, like tier 0 teams right now, you are either going to be running Teep or Sunday. Like, they're basically both there. So it's like they're on two different trajectories and they don't really necessarily compete with one another. So there really isn't like a wrong or right choice as to which one has a higher pool value for its support. You can't really go wrong depending on whichever DPS you're playing. So if you're a player that likes to play with Phainon hypercarry, then Sunday, I would say, literally has more value than Teep. If you like to play with like Phainon, you want to play with Saber, all that kind of stuff, fantastic, right? If you're somebody that still wants to play with like Casuist, you want to play with AoE content, all that kind of stuff, then Teep is also going to be really, really good. So that's going to be that. Once again, no war, peace, love, happiness. I'll drop him bro here. Let's move on. Okay, Mydei, the 10th vertebrae guy. I think we already kind of expected that bro was probably not gonna be as much as a competition, right? Like, okay, like for sure, like if you want to sim for Mydei, you're on E6 S5 Mydei, he's gonna do really, really good. E1 is absolutely fucking diabolical. Opportunity cost, right? The room to grow and all that kind of stuff. The stupidest AI auto targeting. I will put him somewhere around here, right? A little bit higher than Yunli, but me personally, I'll put him somewhere around here, right? Not really too big of a place, so it is what it is. Alrighty, you know what? For a normie tier list, she is allegedly a must pull. You know why? Because she has a global passive, guys. How can you not pull a unit with global fucking passive? You are literally breaking your account like MrPokke, right? MrPokke, every single day when I'm going about my life, doing my clears, doing my showcase, doing my 0 cycles, every single time one of my unit dies, chat is like W morals, because I didn't pull for Casuist, right? So every single time I didn't pull for Casuist, I have to reset again and again and again and again and again. It is what it is, right? So from a normie perspective, Casuist is a very, very good pool. Outside of a normie perspective, if you are a meta chaser, right? If you are a meta chaser, I would say she is the tip top of pool. Right? First of all, whether you need a global passive, most of the time, unless you're trying to, don't drive yourself crazy resetting for 0 cycles, doesn't really matter. And if you have a good and proper sustain team, probably won't activating this sustain this global passive anyways, so that's gonna be that. As a general DPS performance, I would say right now she is the tip top of version 3 as of the time of this recording, right? That is until Phainon gets Ceridra, then we'll see how Phainon cooks. But right now, Casuist's performance with Hyacinth and Teep, probably like the most universal DPS that can clear every single end content. But the thing is, once again, as per HSR standards, she's getting shielded quite a lot ever since the last Pollux. For now, she's still getting a bit of a shielding because the MOC buff buffs your slot 1 Mimo Sprite damage and your ultimate thingy, so she's still getting a bit of a shield. But as time progresses forward going in the future, so the next MOC is going to be Savrock as well as Aventurine, and then there's going to be a new MOC after that, and the buffs are going to change. Most likely what I'm guessing is going to happen is that they will shield for DOT and Phainon, because 3.5 is Hyacinth and 3.5 second half is going to be Ceridra, right? So because they want to upsell the DOT R-type as well as Phainon, which literally just had better than 3.4, I would say they would take the shielding away from Casuist and go into these other DPS. So right now, at this point in time, if we ever get another like Casuist rerun, she is really, really good, right? Her performance with Hyacinth and Teep, in, what was the word? Unquestionably, you wouldn't have any problems with her, right? But if you are just gonna be going for a simple casuist without any of the vertical investments, right? She's gonna work, but be expected to upgrade and invest in the vertical investments going forward in the future, just like every other DPS in the list as time goes on, right? Same thing for Acheron, same thing for Herta, same thing for casuist. Right now, she's gonna be fine, but after like 6 months and you go into like version 4 and you don't get high scene, you don't get T, you don't get, and you're still running like RMC, Gallagher, and I don't know, Pella, I think you can expect your casuist performance to basically drop off. Because this is the formula for every single DPS. You upsell a DPS right now to make sure that their performance is very good even without the vertical investments, and then they release the vertical investment in the future, and then they move away the shilling, so you are more or less going to be requiring the vertical investment to make them keep up with the brand new shilling. It is the same game. I've been playing this game for so long, I can literally read it in the back of my ass right now. So that is the formula. If you want her, as of this point, she is pretty much going to be somewhere in this. Actually, you know what? Nah, this is gonna be a good case. So that's okay. Next up, this guy, I can't even believe it. I am going to put him at a higher position than Casterus. Yep. I am gonna put him at a higher position than Casterus. Not quite a similar length as this, right? Because I think DPS, I'm very, very strict on DPSs. But I think this guy's position is absolutely diabolical because his damage, his weakness implant, essentially almost guarantees him a slot for Epoch Shadows. And in Mermaid of Chaos, you could run him with D-Herta, you could run him without D-Herta, he's gonna work. As long as you get the support archetypes in Honkai support rail, this guy is gonna pop off. On element, off element, he doesn't give a flying fuck, right? And in Epoch Shadows, because of this weakness implant, to be fair, Seele also does a very similar thing, right? She does a very similar thing. Except for Anexa, especially at E0, S0, I think this guy's damage is just absolutely insane. And the utility plus the damage combined into one, I would say out of every single version 3 DPS, I think he shows the most amount of potential as of this point. I might even put him slightly below Babin if I were to give my real tier list of Sunday over here. But if I were to do this, I think people will go kind of crazy. So I'm just going to put him at a tip top of pool. But I think he is somewhere around here. Something like this, all right? So let's be peace, love, and happiness. And we're going to keep it as this. And we're just going to move forward, right? Yeah. Kanina, this fat fuck. Oh my goodness. Okay, you know what? Even though Hia does like very, very good damage, very, very good synergy with T for the tricycle or the wheelchair, very, very comfortable sustain, I'm always in a firm believer where your sustain's reliance, right? It's only as much as you need them to be. Because as long as you can keep your team alive, and that is like something I've been saying since day one, if you can keep your team alive, anyone can be a sustain. You can be a sustain, anybody in this game can be a sustain as long as you can keep your team alive. So I would say for people that have no issue sustaining with using units like Gallagher or God forbid Lynx sustainless, then you don't really need a sustain ever because you can already clear this stage, right? You can already clear it as long as you can sustain. But I would say for like the general player base that don't care about like those like sweaty, uncomfortable sustains, as of this point right now, Hyacinth is the most comfortable sustain. She is the... You don't even have to think. Press full auto, chances are you're probably going to be clearing the stage and none of your team is going to die. She's super comfortable. Just like how when Aventurine came out, he's like super comfortable as a sustain as well. And the added benefit of Hia, I think there's two added benefits. One, absolutely insane synergy with Casterus. I would say if you pull Casterus, you have to pull her. You really want to Hyacinth if you already pull Casterus. If you do not have a Casterus and you want to use Hyacinth outside from a Casterus team, she can still be done with either wheelchair, tricycle, or just as a generic sustain slot. But because of the fact that, you can, like I mentioned, as long as you sustain, it doesn't really matter, I would put her somewhere around here, right? Somewhere around here. Very decent. But if you don't need it, then you just don't need it, right? For the general population, I would say even if you don't have Casterus and you are still having issues sustaining because you missed out all the previous sustains, Hyacinth is a pretty simple, right? So that is gonna be that. Okay, Cipher. First things first, Cipher has been one of the lowest banners in the entirety of HSR history. I don't think I've ever seen a banner lower than Cipher in my entire life because, you know, she got a curse of Boothill, where she got placed right in between the best sustain for Castris and the fake collaboration. So everybody and their moms, they are basically just trying to save up for Stellar Jades, and you know, they just skip her. It is what it is. Her performance is absolutely insane, right? True damage, vulnerability, additional stacks, defense reduction if you got the signature like all that kind of stuff. Her performance is really, really good. I would say if you're already someone that got a more or less coherent team going, you have all of the different DPSs with the supports, you could just like chill with her a little bit, because I would say pulling for your waifus in the gacha game, if that's your concern, it should still be number one, right? Like Saber is a limited unit, right? The free Archer light code, right? The free Archer light code, it is what it is. But going forward, specifically if you're talking about like, let's just say like an Acheron team, right? Or potentially even face out, the damage amplification from Cipher is really, really good. I would say, as of right now, I would put her around this caliber. Actually, Silver was a little bit too high, me personally. Drop her ass down a little bit, more than HweHwe. Yeah, somewhere around this caliber, right? In the future, I want to see what Cipher can cook with other DPSs. Because right now, I don't think she has a best in slot usage for a version 3 yet. Technically, you could run her with Castris, because technically right now the highest possible dealing damage in the game is Castris, Cipher, Tribbie, and Hyacinth. So that is where her absolute highest damage amplification is coming from. I want to see what other DPSs can she be used with, and whether or not can Cipher be used with version 4 DPSs. Alright, always look forward, never look backward. So that is where I'm gonna be placing her for now. Okay, Phainon, technically speaking, he has the highest room to grow because I haven't seen Servidra. But also because I haven't seen Servidra, I can't really judge bro's performance, because I know for a fact that Castris with Hyacinth and it is absolutely diabolical. It really just depends on the fact that how good Servidra is going to be. And since Servidra is going to be coming in the next patch, and I don't know what the hell she does, I'm just going to be like super conservative and just chuck her somewhere in between here, right? Somewhere in between here. If I know for a fact that Servidra with Sunday, so not Sunday, with Phainon is going to be like super strong, I'll bump up eventually. But for now, I'm going to be a little bit more chill and just drop her slightly below a unit that I know for a fact is going to be working exceptionally well. That being said, I do have a potential concern where if you want to run Phainon, right, and you want to run him with a sustain, expect his damage to drop off by a lot. Compared to any of this DPS on this, a sustainless Phainon's DPS drop-off is quite considerable. And if going forward in the future, when they introduce like more difficult endgame content, more HP inflation, and you can no longer clear an endgame content with a sustainless Phainon, then his kit is gonna suffer by a lot. Because if you can't clear with sustainless and you need a sustain, you add on the sustain, and if you add on the sustain to Phainon, the damage drop by a cliff, you are in a very weird situation where his performance will be drastically impacted by how difficult the endgame content is going to be. The easier you have a time clearing with Phainon, the better his value is going to be. It's sort of like an exponential scaling DPS, where the stronger your account is, the better the Phainon is going to be for you. So for that, we'll just see what Servidra has to offer, but for now, somewhere over here. And this brings us to the last 2 units in the entire game. This guy, I mean, he's free, so you don't really need to care, right? He's literally free. Nobody should be pulling for an Archer, but he really important to talk about the Islands. We'll talk about the Island 7, but free unit, that's it. Absolutely insane performance, absolutely. Okay, Saber, she's a collab unit. And if you want a collab unit, just pull her, right? Like, there's no other unit on this entire list that will probably get a rerun. Like, the chance of getting a rerun is probably the lowest for Saber and Archer, right? So if you care about collab, just get her, right? In terms of performance, I would say she's somewhere around the same caliber as like Herta and all that, right? She somewhat reminds me of like somewhere around Aglaea actually. She's somewhat like a DPS that works well with like quite a lot of different units, and she doesn't really suck in any of the endgame content. But if you care about meta, she's definitely not like a must-have by any means necessary, especially if you really build up your different team comps for all of the endgame content, right? But if you really like Saber, just pull, right? She's absolutely fine. She works with a lot of different supports, somewhat similar to Aglaea, but I just find it a little bit difficult to see it like a Saber's room for growth. Unless the redraw also works really well with Saber, because technically she's like a hyper carry DPS like Phainon, right? But I don't know how that's gonna be, but for now I'll put her around the same kind of slightly higher than Aglaea. Actually, HweHwe, go the fuck back down. Right, there we go, right? Let me do a little bit of a adjustments to see if this looks good. Okay, let's put this here. Let's put this here. Let's put this. Okay, this looks fine. Okay, all this look fine. Okay, Jiao I can give it a little bit of a face. Yunli being here is okay. Actually, Aventurine can be a little bit higher than Yunli. Mydei can be here. Okay, this looks fine. Is Fei Xiao my Uma? I don't give a damn. Right, Fei Xiao is gonna be there. This is good. Okay, maybe HweHwe can go a little bit higher. Okay, HweHwe can go a little bit higher. Okay, I think this is okay. This is okay. This being high is here. Okay, I think this looks okay, chat. Last minute changes. I will now open the floor for last minute. Anything that you heavily feel that should be changed. Heavily. Aventurine lower than HweHwe. Should we put Aventurine up? Nah, I'm good. Fei Xiao, shut the fuck up. Sunday up. Yunli pull up. Why is Fei Xiao so high? What? Aglaea, Ruan Mei, Rappa above. Bro, chat, there's no difference, guys. This is just by order of release, right? The P list, everyone is just by order of release. There's no up higher. They're all in the P list. Just it's a P list. Jade should be lower. Sunday up. Ruan Mei at least pulled here. Hell nah. Lulcha up. Now, is Mydei that bad? Bro, it's not a performance tier list. Seele is better than Cipher. You're trolling. Fei Xiao on P. Shut the fuck up. Jade go down. Jade go down. Nah, but Jade is so good in pure vision though. Aglaea too high, no cap. You're trolling. Let Fei Xiao rest. Hell nah. Hyacinth without Lyco is lower. Lower Acheron. Cipher should be higher. Sunday needs to go up. Baldy up. Fei Xiao is useless. Cipher is immune. Baldy popping up. Sunday is too low or Bubbin is too high. Okay, so I guess the only thing y'all want to change is this is the real tier list, right? Okay, this is the real tier list. So we all collectively agree that Fei Xiao is a poo. Okay, we're gonna end off this video over here. Peace, love, and happiness. This is the peace, love, and happiness tier list. Why is Fei Xiao up there? You can check out my exclusive OnlyFans or whatever the fuck this is gonna be. Let me know what you guys think of the pool value tier list, right? The pool value. My entire chat agrees with this, by the way. My entire chat agrees with this, right? So if you guys have anything to disagree with, you just know that all of my chat, on everyone's soul, we all agree with everything that is being said on this tier list, right? So this is the actual final tier list that everybody here agrees with. On chat's lives, this is what everybody has agreed with. Once again, tier list, just a discussion, not a fact, just an opinion, having for fun, also free content. You guys love tier list, don't act like you don't love tier list. It is what it is. Let me know what you guys think, what day is gonna be. Join Twitch, join Discord, join Twitter, join Patreon. Use code both of them. All the best. See you guys time. Take care.